In this part 2 of stone oven making, you will witness the German craftsmen build a traditional oven by hand, carefully stacking bricks and stones and shaping the vault. Each step reflects generations of expertise, creating a durable wood-fired oven, ready to bake bread. In the mountains of the Rheintal Valley above Linz lies Dattenberg, a municipality in the Neuwied district. The town's communal bakery, built in 1862, had to make way for road widening in the mid-1960s. In 1971, the Dattenberg Bakery Community was founded as a local history association and set out to remember the old tradition of bread baking and building a new bakery. 5 years later, they were able to begin construction of a communal oven. They commissioned oven builders from Bell near Mayen to install the oven. At the beginning of the 20th century, this Eifen village, along with Königswinter, was one of the centers of the Rhinish oven building trade. Thanks to their timely adoption of technical innovations in oven construction, 4 companies in Bell survived the decline of the oven building industry in the 1920s. The ovens begin in front of the newly built bakery in Dattenberg, with the fine processing of the oven bricks, which they extracted from local quarries, and transported here as individual components. The members of the Backelsberger community also help with the preparations. They produce the glue, a thick mass of clay dissolved in water. The women pass the liquid through a 4-edged sieve. Before the oven builders can begin assembling the oven vault, the bricklayers of the Backsberger community must fill the square depression in the center of the oven base with gravel and sand. The bricklayers previously constructed the oven substructure from Rhinish basalt. A bed of sand is prepared as a support surface for the hearth. Above this bed, the vault of the natural stone oven is created, which the oven builders sketched on the wall of the bakehouse. Working on the hearths requires considerable craftsmanship. By inspecting the plate, the oven builder can determine whether the surface is flat. As a guide, he has placed a square wooden slat on top. Using a fine-tuning iron tool with 2 ground-striking surfaces, he removes any remaining unevenness. The stove builder performs the fine finishing of the stove sides either with a hammer, a sharp chisel tapering towards the rear, or with a flecht. During the summer months, the stove builders traveled the Rhineland and neighboring regions to install the ordered stoves. While abroad, they communicated in a secret language, formed by reversing the root words of the Bella dialect, also referred to as the Ofenbauer. Families learned the language as children. They only mastered fluent communication after their apprenticeship. The secret language served not only as a communication among themselves in the presence of their clients, but also the Bellers wanted to prevent skilled craftsmen, such as the bricklayers present, insight into the special techniques of stove construction. They assemble hearth plates of various sizes, from 9 to 10 centimeters thick. The baking surface, which rises slightly towards the back, must be perfectly flat. He checks that the edges are flush by placing a wooden slat on top. If necessary, he raises the level by adding more sand. Using the end of a hammer, he taps the plate into the sand bed with millimeter precision. Raised edges would later hinder the baking of the bread. The baking surface, composed of several plates, is characteristic of the Bell oven. The Königswinter oven builders, on the other hand, used a hearthstone made from a single piece, because due to different geological conditions, they had access to larger blocks of stone. The oven mouth allows the fire and baking chamber to be fed. It has an opening of 20 centimeters high and 52 centimeters wide. The cast iron single-shot door from the Dattenberg oven, which was demolished in 1966, has been preserved. And it's being reused here for the communal oven. By placing bricks, the men fix the door until it is in the right position. To install a natural stone oven, the oven builders need differently crafted stones, the shape and size of which depend on where in the oven vault they are used. The first stones of the oven vault are the so-called ring stones. Because of the curvature, they must be hewn at an angle. Usually, two oven builders work hand in hand during construction. It takes them about a week to erect one oven. The oven builders place the ring stones diagonally 2 centimeters below the baking surface on the brick baseboard with mortar. This construction method prevents the pressure of the vault from being transmitted laterally into the masonry of the oven wall. To ensure that the applied mortar bonds better with the stone, the oven builder moistens the surfaces with water. He must strike the last stone in this row in a special way. He chisels out a rectangular depression from the cube, and he proceeds in the same way with the corresponding one. Once the oven builder has installed the last stone, he fills the resulting gaps with mortar and spreads the material. He cleans the joints on the inside and the top edge with particular care, and scrapes off any excess mortar. The bricklayers of the bakery community begin constructing the outer oven wall from red brick. Meanwhile, the oven builder erects the first row of vault stones on the three sides of the baking surface. In the forecourt of the bakehouse, he prepares the 30-centimeter high spire stone for installation. The inscription is intended to commemorate the year the oven was built. The oven builders use mortar to place the stone across the cast iron oven door. It will later be embedded in the front of the oven. To hold the stones in position until the vault is closed, the oven builder needs 15 to 22 centimeters long square pieces of wood. In order to be able to precisely shape the oven stones here too, he transfers the required angle to the tuff block using an adjustable wooden measuring device known as a bevel. The horizontal stones of the kiln vault, the Stulptausch, are similarly shaped to the ring stones. One side, which later rests on the ring stone, is worked at an angle. Only the old kiln builders still master the vault construction technique and the processing of tuff blocks by hand. They built these kilns sporadically until the 1950s. By this time, they had already switched to the use of fire bricks and machine stone processing. The stilptausch sit diagonally on top of the ring stones. To hold them in the correct position, the kiln builder supports the stones with the prepared wooden rods. He checks whether the stones lie seamlessly against each other, secures the stone, and makes any necessary corrections with an additional wooden support. To close the gap between the kiln mouth and the ring stones, the second kiln builder has to cut it. He uses a pointed hammer, which has two sharp striking edges of different widths. The kiln builder can cut off the excess corner with sharp blows along the line. The kiln clients paid for the material piece by piece. The price of a kiln was based on the number of worked bricks. Furthermore, the kiln builders received board and lodging from the client, while the kiln construction usually took a week. The only construction plan for the kiln was drawn by the kiln builders directly at the kiln construction site, since they sketched the drawing on a 1:1 scale onto the wall of the bakehouse. They could measure the required angles with a bevel, transfer them to the bricks, and work them accordingly. Once the second row of sashes is in place, the kiln builder can close the vault. Due to the slanted position of the sashes, the opening is narrower on the underside than on the top. The downwardly tapered sash must be installed into the opening with millimeter precision. Due to their shape, the last bricks hold themselves in place, putting tension on the vault and thus creating the necessary stability for the structure. Because Beller Oven Tuff is a relatively light rock of volcanic origin, it is particularly suitable for building a self-supporting vault structure. The prepared glue mixture is used to seal the joints between the tough blocks of the oven chamber. The oven builder, who still masters the traditional method, has a feeling from years of experience that he needs no more than he can apply with a straw brush. The further the oven construction progresses, the more difficult and cramped the oven builder's work becomes. He can only insert the last 2 stones of the vault from above. Now the last stone of the oven vault, the keystone. Using a chisel, he carves a cross into the stone. The chiseled cross marks the center of the keystone, similar to the foundation stone of a house. It can also serve as a sign of blessing. Until the founding of the Oven Builders Guild in the 1930s, the oven building trade was a so-called wildcraft. No organized vocational training. Aspiring oven builders learned how to work the stones and install ovens either in the family business or from an oven building company. By the time the film was shot, natural stone ovens had been replaced by modern steel ovens. By placing the keystone, the oven builders had finished their work on the oven's baking chamber. It was customary to install the last stone in the presence and with the help of the client. The oven builder leaves the final hammer blows to a member of the baking community. The number of blows determined any additional amount of alcohol that the client paid the oven builders. After placing the keystone, the oven builders began building the oven flues, which ended with the 2 tough stone shells. The shells were placed on the vault behind the oven front, creating a channel between the shells and the oven front. The 2 oven flues are made of bricks on the tough vault. The flues form the connecting channels between the flue holes in the corners of the oven and the openings in the oven shells. Smoke can escape from the baking chamber through these channels when the oven is heated. The bricklayers insert the cast iron chimney flaps into the outer wall in front of the oven shells. Once the oven builder has closed the smoke exhaust duct, they plaster it with mortar to prevent the uncontrolled ingress of air into the baking chamber. The baking chamber of the oven has a floor area of 1.2 by 1.6 meters and is 30 centimeters high in the center of the vault. It holds 40 loaves of bread, which are placed in the oven in 4 rows, one behind the other. The channel between the chimney flaps and the oven shells, the so-called fox, is closed off by the second oven. The air duct system is set up so that the smoke from the baking chamber is led through the draft holes. With the chimney of the oven connected to the draft system, the oven can be lit for the first time. This test fire at low heat, which serves to dry out the joints and the tough blocks, is carried out by the oven builders themselves. They use blackthorn twigs to heat it up. Beechwood is used to create more embers and greater heat. With the masonry work on the oven wall finally finished, sand is piled up over the vault for thermal insulation. The stones of the oven can now store heat for more than a day. One week after work began, the construction of the oven is finished. As late as the 1950s, the oven builders moved on to the next client after completing an oven, and did not return to Bell until the end of summer.